All right, so let's get right into it. You're here for the Adobe deep dive, right? ADBE, big stock. A lot of people are kind of confused about what's happening after those recent earnings reports, so
Yeah,
we're going to unpack it all.
interesting for sure.
Yeah, we got reports, we got analyst opinions, even a little bit of insider trading stuff.
Hey.
We're going to break it all down for you. What's crazy is Adobe, they're the creative software empire, right? But there are some serious questions about how AI is going to affect them moving forward. Analysts are all over the place. Some are optimistic, some not so much.
It really is captivating. The thing is, Adobe just had record revenue, right? For fiscal year 2024, they hit $21.51 billion and 11% growth year
Yeah,
over year. That's huge.
that's a big number, for sure.
But the market didn't seem to care, you know? Their stock price actually went down about 13% in a single day, and now it's sitting at $474.63, way below its estimated fair value of $556.43.
Wow, okay, so they're making tons of money, but Wall Street's not happy. What's the deal?
Well, investors, they always want to know what's coming next, right? And Adobe's guidance for fiscal year 2025 predicts revenue between 23.30 and $23.55 billion. Now, that's still growth, but it's less than what analysts were expecting.
Ah, so it's not about doing bad. It's about not meeting those crazy high expectations. I guess Wall Street always wants more. But Adobe, I mean, they're the kings of creative software, right? They have that moat thing going for them, don't they?
You're exactly right. They do have a big moat. And a moat in business terms is like a company's competitive advantage. It protects them like a real moat around a castle. Think about it. Their products like Photoshop and Illustrator, they're the industry standard, right?
Yeah, everyone uses them.
Most creatives rely on those tools, so it's really tough to compete with that.
Okay, so they have that, the brand recognition, the essential tools. But what about this whole AI revolution that's happening? Isn't that kind of shaking things up for
Right.
everybody?
Oh, absolutely. AI is a game changer. And Adobe, they know this, which is why they've been investing a lot in it, particularly with their Firefly platform. It's already had like 16 billion cumulative generations.
Wow, that's a lot of AI stuff.
Mm.
So they're not just sitting back and letting AI happen. They're really diving in.
That's right. They're weaving AI into all their products, from enhancing existing tools to even creating totally new ones. It's a bold move to stay ahead of the game.
Makes sense. But we got to be honest. There's competition out there. Canva, for example. They're making a lot of noise. People say they're easier to use, especially for, people who aren't professional designers.
Canva has definitely found their place, offering those easy-to-use tools at prices that are really attractive, so they're a serious competitor. But Adobe isn't backing down. They're fighting back with products like Adobe Express, which is designed to be more user-friendly, more accessible, kind of like Canva. And they're trying to bring in more users with different pricing options, different levels of features at different prices.
So it's kind of like a David and Goliath story. But Adobe is holding their own. It's good to see they're adapting and evolving, keeping up with the times. But with all this talk about competition, what are the analysts saying? Is Adobe doomed, or do they see a path forward?
Well, analysts are all over the map. Some are really optimistic, with price targets as high as $675. Others are way more cautious, even bearish, with targets as low as $450.
Whoa, okay, so that's a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
Some think they're going to soar, others think they're going to crash. It's like they're looking at two completely different companies.
It all comes down to how much weight they give to Adobe's strengths versus their weaknesses. Some believe Adobe's moat, their innovative spirit, and this big push into AI will drive them forward. Others are worried about the slowing growth and the increasing competition. It's a tough call.
Yeah, it's starting to make sense. Adobe is this financial powerhouse with some huge advantages, but they also have some serious challenges ahead. It's like a tug of war between their dominance and these new market forces.
Exactly. And to make it even more interesting, there's been some insider trading activity. Amy Bance, a director at Adobe, she just sold 606 shares at $550 each.
Ooh, insider trading. That's always a little suspicious. Does that mean she's losing faith in the company, or is there something else going on?
It's tempting to read into these things, but insider trades can happen for lots of reasons. It doesn't always reflect the company's performance. It's just one piece of a very complicated puzzle.
Okay, so we've got this mix of impressive financials, but also some market jitters. What I'm really curious about is the actual performance, the nitty-gritty. Can we break down the numbers in a way that everyone can understand, not just the Wall Street experts?
Absolutely. Let's dive into the details and see what these numbers really tell us about Adobe's health and where they might be headed.
Let's do it. First up, what about their fourth quarter numbers? How'd they do?
For Q4, Adobe ended up with $5.61 billion in revenue, a solid 11% growth year over year.
Not bad at all. And what about their net new ARR, that annual recurring revenue, especially for their main products, the digital media and document cloud?
Those segments are doing well. Digital media brought in $578 million in net new ARR for Q4, and Document Cloud had a record-breaking $173 million.
Wow, so they're getting new customers and locking in that recurring revenue? That's got to be good for stability, right?
It is, definitely. And their operating cash flow is healthy, too, coming in at $8.06 billion for fiscal year 2024. That basically means they're making a lot of cash from their core operations, which gives them flexibility to invest in growth, manage debt, or even reward shareholders with dividends.
That sounds like a pretty sweet spot to be in. How about those margins and financial ratios? Those can tell us a lot about how a company is actually doing right.
You're right about that. Adobe has a fantastic gross margin of 88.64% and an operating margin of 36%. That means they're really good at managing costs and making profits from their sales.
So financially speaking, they seem to be doing great.
They are. Their financial ratios also back that up. A current ratio of 1.07 and a quick ratio of 0.74 means they have a healthy liquidity position. They have enough short-term assets to cover their short-term liabilities. No problem.
This is painting a much more positive picture of Adobe.
Yeah.
But I know there are still those concerns about slower growth and all that competition.
Oh, for sure. Those are valid points, and we'll dig into them more in a bit. But for now, it's important to recognize that Adobe's financial foundation is strong. Their proactive approach to AI and their constant innovation put them in a good spot to deal with the challenges ahead.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, let's talk about insider stats. We saw some activity recently with insiders both buying and selling shares.
You got it. Insider stats can give us a glimpse into the sentiment within the company. We don't have time to go through every single transaction, but it is worth noting that the buy-sell ratio has been kind of up and down over the past few quarters.
So some insiders are feeling optimistic about Adobe, while others are playing it safe. Makes sense, given everything we've talked about.
Exactly. And it highlights how important it is to consider all the different perspectives and do your own research before making any decisions, especially when it comes to investing.
Well said. We've covered a lot today, starting with Adobe's recent stock drop and those market worries. Then we looked at their record revenue and strong financials. We've talked about their strengths, their weaknesses, and all the factors that are going to shape their future. But we're not done yet.
Nope, not even close. In part two, we'll go even deeper into Adobe's AI strategy and how they're using this game-changing technology in their products. We'll also take a close look at their competition, especially Canva, and see how Adobe is adapting to stay ahead.
And we'll untangle those conflicting analyst opinions, trying to figure out what the bulls and the bears are seeing. So stick with us. We'll be back in a flash.
All right, so we're back diving deeper into Adobe. Before we get into AI, I think it's important to highlight how, unusual this whole situation is. We have this company, track record of innovation, financials are solid, but the market's not totally sold.
Right. It's that disconnect between how well they're doing and how Wall Street's reacting that makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
And it all seems to come down to AI. Can they use it to their advantage? We talked about Firefly before, but I'd love to understand how they're incorporating AI into everything they offer, not just one product.
Yeah, Firefly's just the tip of the iceberg. They're putting AI everywhere, from Creative Cloud to Document Cloud, even Experience Cloud. Think of it as an AI upgrade for all their stuff, like the AI assistant in Acrobat. It's changing how people work with documents, automating tasks that used to take forever.
Right. AI making those everyday tasks a lot less painful. What other AI tricks do they have up their sleeve?
Well, their generative AI models are making waves. Firefly is going beyond images now. They're using it for vector design and video editing. These tools are giving creators a whole new level of power.
That's got to be exciting for creatives. But it also brings up the competition. Canva, with its easy-to-use, affordable approach, seems to be going after the same users. How's Adobe dealing with that?
Canva's definitely made a name for themselves, especially with casual users and small businesses. They've made design approachable for people who might find the professional tools too complicated. But Adobe's got a plan.
So how are they taking on Canva? What's their strategy?
Take Adobe Express, for example. It's their simplified design platform, made for users who might find the full Creative Cloud suite a bit much. It's easy to use, affordable, and works well with other Adobe products.
So they're basically competing directly with Canva, offering a simpler way to get into the Adobe world. But will that be enough to pull users away from Canva?
It's a smart move, but we'll have to see how it plays out. They're not skimping on quality or features with Adobe Express. It still uses their core technology and AI, just packaged in a more user-friendly way.
Makes sense. They're expanding their reach without losing what makes them strong. But with all this innovation, why are some analysts still on the fence? Are they missing something?
Remember, investors care about the future. Some analysts are worried about growth slowing down, especially in their digital media segment, which has been their biggest earner.
So they're afraid Adobe might hit a ceiling, that their main source of growth might be running out of steam.
Yeah. There's also concern that competition might force them to lower prices, which could hurt their profits. Canva's success shows that there's a demand for cheaper options.
It's interesting how these different viewpoints lead to such different predictions. Some think Adobe is a guaranteed winner, others are hitting the brakes.
It really depends on how they balance Adobe's strengths against their challenges. The optimists are focused on their history of innovation, their market dominance, and their big push into AI. They think these will lead to growth and profits in the long run.
So they're banking on Adobe's ability to adapt and stay ahead. What about the pessimists? What are they worried about?
They're more cautious. They worry that the market for creative software might be getting saturated, especially as AI tools become more common and easier to use. They also see competition as a threat to Adobe's ability to set prices.
So it's like a classic debate between optimists and pessimists. It just goes to show that predicting the future is never easy, even for the experts.
Exactly. And it reminds us that we need to do our own research and look at all sides of the story before making any investment decisions. Speaking of insights, let's go back to Adobe's recent earnings call. What were some of the key takeaways from that?
Right. Let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth. What did Adobe's leadership have to say about where they stand and where they're going?
One of the biggest things they emphasized was that the business is changing. They're investing a lot in new products, especially AI, and they're seeing a shift in where their growth is coming from.
A shift in their growth. That sounds important. What does that mean?
In the past, most of Adobe's growth came from existing customers upgrading to new versions of their software. Now, more growth is coming from new users and new products.
So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket anymore. They're finding new sources of revenue. That's got to be good for long-term success, right?
Definitely. And it shows that they're adapting to how the market's changing. They also talked a lot about monetization through tiering.
Wait, hold on. Tiering. What does that mean?
It means offering different pricing tiers for their products, each with different features. This lets them appeal to a broader range of customers, from casual users to big companies, with everyone paying for what they need.
Oh, I get it. It's like a choose your own adventure for pricing.
Yeah.
You only pay for what you actually use.
Exactly. It lets them make more money while giving customers more options. And they also highlighted the success of their newer products like Adobe Express and Gen Studio, which is for businesses. They also mentioned strong enterprise bookings and record net new ARR in digital media and document cloud.
So even with the market's concerns, they're still doing well in key areas.
That's right. And they're confident about the future. They believe the growing demand for AI-powered creative tools and customer experience management solutions will help them keep growing.
Okay, I'm starting to feel more optimistic about Adobe after hearing all this. But it's important to stay objective and look at all the angles, right?
Absolutely. Any investment decision should be made after carefully considering all the information and knowing how much risk you're comfortable with.
Well said. Speaking of broadening our perspective, I think it's time to look at Adobe's global reach and how their revenue breaks down across different regions. That can give us insights into their growth potential and any risks they might face in different markets.
You're right. Understanding a company's global footprint is crucial when evaluating their prospects. So let's see where Adobe is making money and how that's been changing over time.
All right, let's go global. Where's Adobe making its mark around the world?
When we break down their revenue by location, it's clear that the Americas are their biggest market. This region has always contributed the most to their total revenue. In the last quarter, the Americas brought in a whopping $14.71 billion, way more than any other region.
Wow, that's a huge part of their business. What about other areas like Asia and EMEA? Are they making progress there?
While Asia and EMEA are smaller compared to the Americas, they're still important for Adobe's revenue. Asia brought in $729 million last quarter, and EMEA contributed $1.27 billion.
Okay, so they're global, with the Americas as their stronghold, but they're also growing in other parts of the world. Does that make them more stable or more vulnerable?
It's a bit of both. Their strong presence in the Americas could be risky if that market takes a hit, but being in other regions helps to balance that out.
So they're playing it smart. They're making the most of their success in one market while expanding into others to spread out their revenue.
Exactly. And that diversification is key for any potential investor. Knowing where a company gets its revenue can tell us a lot about how they might grow and what risks they face. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, there's one more thing we need to look at: their leadership team.
Right, the people in charge,
Yeah.
the ones calling the shots. Why is it important to look at the leadership when evaluating a company?
A strong leadership team, especially in a fast-changing market like tech, can make or break a company. They set the vision, make the tough decisions, and steer the company through rough times.
So let's meet the brains behind Adobe. Who are the key players leading the way?
At the top is Shantanu Narayan, who's been Adobe's CEO for over 20 years. He's highly respected in the industry and is known for leading the company through huge growth and transformation.
Wow, 2 decades as CEO. That says a lot about his vision and leadership. Who else is on the executive team? What are they good at?
We've got Daniel Dern, the CFO, who's responsible for managing Adobe's finances and investments. Then there's David Wadhwani, the president of the digital media business, and Dr. Anil Chakravarthy, the president of the digital experience business.
So they've got experienced people leading their 2 main business areas. That's good to know.
And we can't forget Scott Belsky, their chief strategy officer. He's the one driving innovation and looking for new opportunities.
Sounds like they've got a team of all-stars, each with their own expertise and a deep understanding of what Adobe is all about.
This leadership team, with their combined experience and years at Adobe, seems ready to lead the company through whatever challenges and opportunities come their way.
Their experience is definitely a plus. It's good to know they've been through tough times before. We've covered a lot today, from Adobe's financial performance and their move into AI to the competition, and even insider stats and global market trends.
We also got to know the people behind the scenes, the leaders guiding this powerful company. But our journey isn't over yet. There's still more to uncover and analyze.
We've laid the groundwork, but now it's time to put it all together and figure out what it all means. What are the key insights that will help our listeners understand Adobe's current situation and what might happen in the future?
That's exactly what we'll do in part 3. We'll connect the dots, explore the different paths Adobe might take, and leave you with some food for thought.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back to wrap things up and share our final thoughts. And we're back for the final round of our Adobe Deep Dive. We've covered a lot, haven't we? Financials, AI, competition, even their global reach and the people in charge.
Yeah, we really went deep. We saw their successes, those record numbers, but also those concerns about their future growth. It's like they're at a turning point.
Right, they're the top dog in creative software. But what happens when things start to change?
That's the question. They've got this amazing history of innovation, a strong market position, but they're also dealing with more competition, changing expectations, and that constant pressure to keep growing in a market that's constantly changing.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
Okay, so let's make sense of it all. We've talked about a lot, but what are the main takeaways? What should our listeners remember?
First, Adobe is financially solid. Their core products are essential in many industries. They're making good money. They're not some fly-by-night startup. They have a real foundation.
That's important to remember. Sometimes we get caught up in the hype and forget the basics. But Adobe has a proven track record.
Exactly. And they're not standing still. They're going all in on AI, putting it in all their products, and always looking for new ways to use it to make their offerings better and attract new users.
So they're embracing the future, making sure they're ready for the AI revolution, but is that enough? The market doesn't seem convinced. That's the key question. We also have to acknowledge the challenges they face. Competition is getting tougher, and they need to show they can keep growing, especially in their digital media segment, which has been slowing down a bit.
The market seems fixated on that slowdown, even though their overall numbers are still good. It just shows how much perception matters, especially for investors.
You're right. And then there are the different opinions from analysts. Some are bullish. They think Adobe can overcome these challenges and come out on top, while others are more cautious, worried about growth and competition.
It's like they're looking at 2 different companies. It reminds us that no one can predict the future, not even the experts. So what does this all mean for someone thinking about investing in Adobe?
It comes down to their own risk tolerance and how they see Adobe's long-term potential. Do they believe in Adobe's ability to adapt and innovate? Do they think their AI strategy is a game changer?
Exactly. Investing is never a sure thing. Do your research, consider different viewpoints, and maybe talk to a financial advisor.
Couldn't agree more. Now, let's step back a bit and think about the bigger picture. What are the big questions surrounding Adobe? What keeps you up at night thinking about their future and their role in the tech world?
Okay, let's get philosophical. What are the existential questions for Adobe?
Well, one that keeps coming up for me is, can they stay on top of the creative software market as AI becomes more widespread?
Right, as AI gets easier to use, will Adobe's professional tools still be the go-to?
It's a real concern. We're already seeing companies like Canva offering simple, AI-powered design tools for a wider audience. Can Adobe compete? Can they balance serving professionals while appealing to a wider market?
Another question I have is, how will Adobe's AI strategy affect the entire creative industry? Will these tools make creativity more accessible to everyone, or will they lead to everything looking the same?
It's a fascinating question. AI could empower people who don't have the traditional skills or resources to create high-quality content. Imagine anyone, no matter their background, being able to bring their ideas to life with AI tools.
That's a powerful image. But is there a downside? Could AI actually limit creativity?
There's always that possibility. If these tools aren't used carefully, they could lead to a lack of originality and less creative expression. It's a two-sided coin. AI can both empower and homogenize, and it's up to Adobe to find the right balance.
It's a complex issue with big implications.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology, it's about the ethics and how it could affect creative professionals.
We need to keep talking about these issues as AI becomes more integrated into the creative process, and Adobe, as a leader, has a responsibility to use these tools ethically.
Absolutely. We've explored a lot in this deep dive, Adobe's successes, their challenges, their strategy, and the bigger picture of their AI journey. It's been fascinating, and hopefully our listeners have a better understanding of this company.
This is just the beginning. We encourage you to keep learning, ask questions, and form your own opinions about Adobe and AI's impact on the world.
If you're interested in more deep dives into the tech world, subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future episodes. We'll be exploring more fascinating topics, diving into the trends, innovations, and big questions shaping the future.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay curious.